All right, and welcome back to another episode, another weekly update, racing update. This time around, and going in the future, I'm going to just talk about some of the more successful, or in today's case, more unsuccessful races. So that way this video doesn't end up an hour long. And so, as you can see, what we got here today is a ladder race versus Crabz versus the ATP Adrenaline, and boy, oh boy, was it a adrenaline rush. And what I mean by that is they beat the ever-loving snot out of us. They did a fantastic job of racing. And as you can see on the ranking, they've got a couple rubies, a couple sapphires, a couple emeralds, and we've got myself, so I'm listed as a sapphire, but I'm more of an amethyst these days. But you can see that our team is vastly outmatched by them. We've got some good numbers on the right-hand side. You can see, our team is more sprinters than diesels, where their team is good sprinters and really good diesels. Lots of good power on the, 5, 10, 20 minute. And that's where, as I've mentioned in the past, I feel like if you're racing Zwift, especially if you're racing in club ladder, having a strong 20-minute power truly means you can dictate how the race goes. And that's exactly what happened today. We, and more so, their 2 to 5 minute power is, I think, really what came in the most handy. But they really took the race, they took control of the race and took control early on. And so let's go ahead and jump to that, because boy, oh boy, was it, like I said, it was an adrenaline rush for sure. All right, so as we're getting ready to kick things off, we are in the pen, we are talking strategy, just kind of getting getting to figure out kind of what we're going to do. Now, we didn't have a solid plan for this. We were just kind of talking ad hoc, kind of navigating it, and really looking to see, we knew that they were a strong team. Me personally, going into this, I looked at their numbers and I was like, all right, well, we definitely have the stronger sprinters, but they have the stronger, 20-minute power. So if we can stay on their wheel, if we let them manage the race and kind of, let them lead, essentially, we can stay on their wheel, conserve energy, no big deal. Not a tough course at all. Not ultra worried. This is the TikTok course. If you've ever ridden this with the pace group riders or the robo pacers, you know that this is not, nothing to write home about. And so we figured, I was thinking, stay on their wheel, no big deal. We get out the pen, typical start, a little bit of extra power. I went a little soft initially and then realized I don't want to get dropped right away. So I pushed up the power a little bit, switched to the flame socks because, like I mentioned before, I like the lightning socks, all right, but the fact that I can't lower them is kind of frustrating. Now, if you look at the person who just went to the back of the group, Brackens, absolute monster. He was, one of the numbers, in the beginning, if you noticed his name and numbers, you'll see that he's absolute strong guy. And so we get into this holding a decent pace, mid to low 200s, no big deal. And so we're kind of chatting like, all right, maybe it'll stay like this for a little bit. We know that on this course, getting out of that transition area where you leave the desert and go into, go up the hill into where Titan's Grove is at, that's really the main feature of this race, where a breakaway is most likely to happen. And so we start seeing that, they're pushing a little bit, no big deal. And then we see the lightning socks come up from the right-hand side. And as the lightning socks goes, all right, a couple of our guys push up. You see he dodges to the left, and everybody starts to go. And at that point, it's everybody trying to keep up. Now, one of the things that, specifically in this, in this race, I really wished we would have kind of solidified is, do we want one person to go up? Do we want multiple people to go up? We were kind of, we didn't have that plan, in place. And so what you'll see and what happened basically from here until we get close to Titans Grove, to the ramp out of Titans Grove, is that one of their guys would come up and launch off the front. You see another one going right now. Bracken's is going. One of our guys follows, and Bracken's pushing that 10 watts. Like, he's not sleeping on it. And so a couple more guys push. Now I'm at the back. Got to push up. Got to stay with the group because, that's what racing is all about. I'm not pushing too hard, but since it seems like Bracken's is going, Riz is up there with him. They've got a 2-second gap. We're not going to fight to bring them back. If their guy's not going, we're not going to fight to bring them back. Riz is a strong guy. We know he can, he can hold his own up there. And, as long as, he's willing to let Bracken's do the work, they can stay up there. No big deal. And so right now we're just kind of cruising along. And this is where you start to understand when you're racing a strong team and they have good power, this is how I think they executed the perfect strategy. This is how you control a race. This is how you maintain order, maintain discipline in a race. And what they were doing is they would send a guy up the road. They would go off for a little bit and then let the group catch up and then send another guy up the road. And, for a little bit, you see, there goes Mick Robb going up the road. A couple of our guys following. I'm, fourth or fifth wheel right now, just kind of holding on, trying to stay connected, not letting myself fall too far behind, but at the same time, I don't want to put out 700 watts and burn myself up. Now you can see we're really, really stretched out, super stretched out. So all right, I got to push, shift into gears. And I got to say, I love virtual shifting for this reason. You can just flip back and forth, figure out what you need to do. So I launch a deep sprint, get into there because at this point I'm thinking like, oh, maybe the group could end up splitting up and I don't want to be part of that split. I don't want to be on that second half. And so catch back up, get onto the wheel. Everybody starts slowing down again and, play the game of going back and forth. And there goes, Scafferty leading the bunch and one of their guys starts to come through and pushing again. And again, we're off into the high watts, starting to push more. And so we were like, all right, the strategy that we figured they were going to employ was you send a guy up the road, send a strong sprinter up the road, and if they let you go, then you send a second. Because once you send the second, everybody has to react because you don't want two guys up the road by themselves. And so Derry goes up the road, Keith goes in behind him, and we're like, all right, let's see how they do. Let's see where they go with this. Let them go up the road. If they're going up the road, then let's let them go and not worry about, trying to hold. And so that slowly starts to pick up. Their guys back off, we back off. And at this point, we're looking at, okay, if they go up the road, what do we need to do to stay together? The guys that are left are not schleps. They are some seriously strong guys. So, and Derry's one of their weaker guys when it comes to the long power. Derry's got, a 20-minute of 3.2, where, I'm in that same range as he is. So him going up the road isn't really, he's not the right person to make a break and really create this kind of chaos. But he pulled it off. I'll say that hands down. He pulled it off. Like, he did a great job. So him and Keith are up the road. and pushing on. They've got about 7 seconds now, and just continuing to go forward. We're starting to relax. We're starting to ease the pace. And really from this point, we let them go up the road. So I'm going to go ahead and jump forward till we start to make our way closer to the hill coming out of coming into Titans Grove. And so as we come through the canyon, just for good measure, they end up throwing another attack. And so we were, at this point, my heart rate's in the 140s, but my legs are screaming. We had done multiple attacks, repeated back-to-back attacks. I was, feeling it. My legs were sore. The day prior, I had done the keto-style. And so here we go again. Someone attacks off the front. I chase. Everybody else, you see all the orange numbers light up. Everybody else starts to chase. You see Riz pull up ahead of me because he is an absolute beast when it comes to sprinting. And so he pulls around me quickly, closes that gap, which allows me to draft off of him a little bit better, which I was thankful for because I honestly did not think I could close that gap at this point. And so Riz closed the gap. I get behind him, try and hold it. We've got, about a second off the riders behind us. And, they're quickly closing in. So it's not, we're not ultra worried, but it is, it was a little bit upsetting that they just launched this attack out of nowhere. And it's almost like they heard us talking about it. Because we were at this point chatting, about about the repeated attacks and, the fact that they had 2 guys up the road. So, as long as, or we had a guy, they had a guy. So as long as things kind of played it cool between now and, getting out of the desert, then, we should be able to, stay competitive, but at the same time, we know that they've got some serious power on their side as well. Oh, and again, they decide to launch yet another attack. There he goes, Breckens cutting through the group. Absolutely flew. I had launched a chase behind him. Man, just I gave it what I can to try and hold his wheel, but he absolutely flew. And so here comes our guys coming up through me, as well as their guys. Started to kind of close that gap in a little bit. You can see Derry and Keith are not that far ahead, and it almost seemed like they wanted to bridge that gap. And so it ended up being basically a couple big digs in order to, close that gap. So, within a few seconds here, we'll be 5-on-5 once again. And that was ultimately for me, that was the nail that was that, second to last nail in the coffin. At this point, you can see my heart rate's in the 180s, mid 180s, 183, 182. At this point, we're barely 11 minutes into the race. And I honestly felt like I was suffering. Like this was a tiny, like the tiny races, this was a stage gone wrong. Where I was putting out way more power than I imagined, averaging at this point 277, which for a short, tiny race, perfect. I can do it. I can deal with it. But knowing that we've still got 11 kilometers to go, I was in some thoughts there. And so as we start to get together, I'm just kind of cruising at this point. They're like, no one seems to be rushing to get to these 2 front guys. I push a little bit, but not, as you can see, I'm only doing like a watt or 2 off the front. Decide to play a little back and forth with my steering, just to kind of show that I'm here, that I'm still alive, and I'm still playing the game. And so as we start to catch up, we're on the radio, we're talking about strategy for this hill, because we knew that this hill was going to make or break the whole race. It's the only real climbing feature on this stage. It's the only, real sustained effort, in that, we knew we needed at least a good 1 minute, 1 to 2 minute solid, all out effort as best we can to at this point, seeing what they've done to us so far, we knew that we needed to give it our all in order to even just stay with them on this climb. And so as we start to get to the end of this we start to get into the town, enter into the town, we are just kind of discussing, okay, what do we need to do? We need to, stay on their wheel, at a minimum, stay on their wheel, give whatever we got. It's this climb is not very long. It's not very steep either. That's the thing. It's like, I think it maxes out at like 3%. And so it's just a long enough draggy climb where if you're at the point where we're at, where our legs are hurting, then you might not be able to survive. And so for me, I was just thinking about, okay, as you can see, my heart rate's come down. I'm in the 150s. Can I focus my effort on this 1 to 2 minute power? And like I said in the beginning, 20-minute power, I believe, if you got a strong enough 20-minute power, you can control the race. And what I mean by that is you can convert your 5-minute power. If you can convert your 5-minute power to 20-minute power, or your 1-minute power to 5-minute power to 20-minute power, you can control a race. If you can sprint and then turn that, go from a sprint to a TT, where you go from 10 watts, 12 watts per kilogram down to, 4 or 5 watts per kilogram, just hold that for a minute or two, and then go down to maybe 3 watts per kilogram, 4 watts per kilogram, and hold that for, 5 minutes. Now you're talking about, breakaway level strength, where you can start to pull away, you can start to, really not only, break your competitors, but demoralize them as well. So at this point, I'm on the front just because I'm spinning my legs. I'm not doing a lot of power. I'm not intentionally trying to stay on the front, but everybody else was just staying behind me, and I had my braking disabled, so I didn't really intend on, pushing hard. You can see Derry starts to push up. And so as Derry starts to push up, we're like, all right, here we go. Here comes the, here comes the hard pace. I thought at this point, because I didn't see, Derry, lightning socks. I didn't see fire socks. So I was like, all right, maybe he's just pushing a hard pace. 4.3 watts per kilogram. That's doable up this climb. I can hold that. Like I can push that hard. So you see, I get into the 400s of watts, upper 4 or 5 watts per kilogram. And then here they come sprinting past us. I'm like, all right, here we go. Got to push hard. I don't think I've ever gone up this climb this fast with this level of a pace. I'm pushing, upper 5 watts per kilogram as best I can, and my legs are cooked. I'm quickly fading away. I'm still holding high 4 watts per kilogram and losing ground. And so at this point, I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's my race over. My ability to help them. DJ's, right behind me, so he and I can work together. And then we see Riz come to a stop. Now, I'm going to redirect you to Riz's channel. I want you to see what happened to him. I'm not going to say what happened, but I'm going to tell you, go check it out, because wow, absolutely wow. Now, at the same time that happened to Riz, my seat actually rocked forward, almost literally at the same time. My seat ended up rocking forward, so I've been trying to adjust my seat leveling. And my seat popped forward off of the seat post that I have. The clamp that it uses to hold the seat in place it's basically like geared, where it has teeth, and the teeth weren't properly aligned. And so the nose of my seat ended up rocking forward a little bit, which kind of jarred me. And my power went from like, I felt good, to all of a sudden, like I had to drop power just to kind of stop from falling. And so I lost a little bit of ground. See, DJ came up past me. And at this point, I'm like, all right, I gotta, figure out how to get the energy to TT to these guys. My heart rate's in the 170s. And, I'm just thinking about, can I catch up to them? Everybody's 14 seconds ahead of us. We got a couple of our guys that aren't that far off the back. DJ's the, closest to me with 3 seconds. But, we got a couple guys that just, aren't far away. Keith is the only person that's stuck with them. He's on them, but it's 5 versus 1. That is not a race. That is manslaughter, is what it comes down to. Or crab boil, as it is. And so, 5 versus 1, the best thing Keith can do at this point is just stay on their wheel as best he can and not worry about what happens up front. You know, maybe steal some points from them if he can beat a couple of them in the sprint. If he can stay with them all the way till the very end, he can definitely take them on the sprint. That was not a question in our minds. But the question was, can he stay with them? Considering what they've done so far, can he stay with them? And so as we start to come down the bridge here, I'm looking at my power and thinking like, all right, I just went through this these past few days. I know I can hold 3 watts per kilogram with some effort, with some struggle, but I know I can hold it. So I know I can bridge to get up to these guys. Now, I did notice that I had my power up still. I completely should have used it going up that hill to try and maintain my distance with them. I completely forgot about it. And so it just absolute mistake on my part, not using that power up to kind of bridge that gap. But as you can see, the guys are 4 seconds ahead of me. Now they were on the radar like, hey, we're gonna wait for you. We're gonna slow up a little bit. And so as they were doing that, I was just thankful that I could catch up to them, because it was not easy. Definitely not easy. I didn't want them slowing down. Like I mentioned before, I don't want people slowing down to let me catch up. I did take a little bit of a rest there to try and let my legs kind of get some blood flow back in them. Because again, now I'm sitting on a seat that is not in a good position. Like, it's in a really awkward, uncomfortable position. And so I'm letting my legs kind of breathe a little bit. And so as we start to get through the tunnel, I am catching back up, and they're, again, they're slowing down a little bit to let me catch back up. But I also did not want to, didn't want them to slow down too much, because I still at this point was thinking maybe we can close this gap. We've got 6 kilometers to go. If we work together, the 3 of us working together, unfortunately Riz was too far back, for us to not only let him catch up, but also with his mechanical issues, we weren't sure what at that point was going to happen. And so they do, slow down a little bit, enough for me to, try and keep my, 3 watts pace and catch back up as quickly as I can. So as we get out of the first tunnel and into the second, I start to close that gap. And at that point, it is the 3 of us working together. And I'll fast forward to the end, because man, oh man, this was a race. And so it was the 3 of us just working together to get to the end of the stage. All right, and so here we go, the 3 amigos at this point, with Riz not that far behind. He did a great job of, maintaining his distance, considering the mechanical he had. He did a great job not staying too far behind, and like a true gentleman, finished his race. And so we are coming through the Fuego Flats sprint. Obviously not sprinting. We are exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And so, I initially thought like, oh man, we can put a big dig, on the sprint, just to kind of show that, hey, we still had some left. But, we were taking turns off the front, trying to do what we can to help each other out, and just, we wanted to finish the race. We weren't too far behind the front guys. I think about a minute or so ish off the guys in the front. But ultimately, ATP Adrenaline did a absolutely fantastic job of controlling the race from the kilometer 1. Like, fantastic job of controlling the race from kilometer 1. And so I know that, we'll see them again on the roads, on the ladder, and do our best to, recoup the damages that were done today, and at least get a better position, or maybe even finish next to them. And so there you go. There's a race for today. And like I said before, I'm going to focus on, a race. I did do a couple other ladder races, TTTs, and I may, comment on them or post something about them. But this race, I think, was a good opportunity to kind of see what a team that has strong 20-minute power can do when they execute their strategy, at least what we believe was their strategy, to perfection, and truly control the race from kilometer 1. So there you go, guys. I will catch you on the next race. Hey guys, it's Miguel from That Thing You Just Watched. Hope you enjoyed that video, whether it was topic on nutrition or racing or a combination of both. Feel free to come back. I will continue to put out videos like this and continue to showcase what you can do with smart nutritional strategies, combining that with racing, because that is what this channel is all about. And feel free to check in if you want to see more racing. Click on wherever the link's at, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next race.